Picture this, you're at your local game store, you're throwing dice with your buddy, you're having a great time, and then in walks that guy. I think we all know the guy I'm talking about. The guy who wins and boasts. Maybe it's the guy who cheats or talks down about other people's paint jobs. Generally just the person who walks into the club and radiates negativity to just about everybody. Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Richard here from Crash Course Hobbies, and in today's video, I'm gonna talk to you about how to not be that guy. Now, before we get into this, I wanna make it abundantly clear that I am not trying to bash anybody or single people out or make you feel like crap or anything like that. Sometimes we all just need to be a little bit more socially aware, and I found that Warhammer definitely attracts all kinds of people, which is totally fine, but if nothing else, this will just be a friendly reminder to all of us how we should behave at our local game store. Okay, so the first thing I recommend in just the golden rule or the standard, whatever you want to call it, is just choose positivity. If you're unsure of how to react to a situation, or if all else fails, just choose positivity. Whether it's somebody's showing you their paint job and you're like, oh, that looks great. Or you could say, oh, you should have done this. Just choose the nice version. Or if you're playing a game with somebody and you don't like that their model just obliterated yours, just choose the nice thing. It's a super easy thing to do, and if all else fails, just choose positivity. You'll find that it gets you a lot farther, especially at your local game club. Another thing that I think sometimes people don't always consider is that if a game store is offering their tables for free, every time you go to the store, just plan on buying something to help support them. They're creating this space that you're using, you're enjoying to go play at. The least you can do is kick them a couple of bucks to keep that space open and available for everybody. So usually whenever I go into a game store, I'll pick up a couple of pots of paint or maybe a pack of models. You don't need to go crazy every single time you go to the store, and I totally get that everybody's financial situation is different. But whenever possible, at least buy a soda, maybe some snacks, couple packs of paint or some brushes, you know, even if it's like 10 bucks. But I always plan on spending a little bit of money at the store just because, you know, if you go into this store once a week and you never buy anything, you're just using a space without really contributing to keeping them open, which is the whole point of it being there, I guess. It's just, you know, don't be that guy. The second thing kind of goes hand in hand with that, but that's lose and win with humility. When you're playing a game, you're there to have fun. And the cool thing about Warhammer is that we create these amazing narrative experiences. There's a whole new story being told every time we get on the table. And so if you're playing, and I'll give you an example, I had a situation where I had my big Catan Shard of the Void Dragon, was wrecking shop, was going in, and then my buddy's single lone aggressor, which my Void Dragon just could not kill for whatever reason, punched my Void Dragon to death. And it was a gut punch, horrible experience for me. It felt terrible, but I just laughed and loved every second of it because it was such an amazingly unlikely situation to happen. And that's a perfect example of how you can celebrate your opponent's victories just as much as you can celebrate your own. And all that does is make you an opponent that your friend or person at the game store wants to play against again, but also just makes the game more fun in general. I mean, the reason we play this game is to have fun, and I personally really like Warhammer for the randomness. That's where the dice come in. Sometimes the dice are in your favor, and sometimes they're not. But regardless of how things shake out, just make sure that if you're winning with humility, and if you're losing, lose with grace, and just chalk it up to, you know, that's how it went. You know, if you lose really badly, don't just forfeit in the middle of the game and walk away and take your toys and huff off and, you know, be upset, because there's going to be times when you're playing against somebody and it's not going well for them. And think about it, you wouldn't like it if they just up and left the game either. It's all about learning and having fun, so keep that in mind at your next game. Third thing might be a little bit controversial, but it's like the elephant in the room: hygiene. There's always those people at the store, or the stigma of the stinky, sweaty game nerd, okay? Just give yourself the little sniff test before you walk in. Maybe pack a stick of deodorant in your game bag. Sometimes our local game clubs, they might be hot because there's a lot of people in there, or they don't run the AC enough, or whatever the reason is. But I think we're all, well, mostly grown-ups here and that sort of thing, and I just feel like it's a PSA that I need to make for everybody out there, that just be mindful of it. keep yourself clean and smelling nice, and everybody will have a great time. The next thing is let your opponents go back if they make a mistake. Now hear me out, okay? If you're practicing for tournaments or you're at a tournament or whatever it might be, okay, maybe be a little bit more strict. But in your normal, just kind of friendly match play game, stuff like that, if your opponent forgot to do something in their command phase that, you know, maybe throw a buff on a certain unit or whatever it might be, just let them go back and do it. Look, Warhammer is an incredibly complicated game with a ton of rules and things to remember. The saying is there's no perfect game of 40K played. I guarantee you will forget stuff. I will forget stuff. Everybody does. And so by letting your opponent go back and fix that mistake, they're going to be much more likely to be cool with it when you make your mistake and go back and fix it. Don't be the guy that's like, oh no, you forgot, you didn't cast that psychic power, and so now you're screwed. And then when it comes to your turn and you forget to throw your My Will Be Dones on your heavy destroyers, and you're like, but I've done it every turn this game, like you should know I was just going to do it. They're going to be like, no, you forgot. And that's not fun for anybody. Look, you're going to forget, I'm going to forget, so just be cool about it and let them go back if they forget. Another thing is be mindful when you go up to people during their games. Personally, I love it when people come up to me during a game and they comment on my paint job or my army or whatever it might be. That's totally fine. And I encourage you, when you go to the store, I do it too. Anytime I see people playing, I'll go and check out their armies and look at their paint jobs and might offer a comment or two. But be very careful about how long you let that conversation go. There's definitely been several times where I've been playing a game of 40K with a friend and we're there discussing what's going on. You know, there's a lot of information in 40K, and so I'm checking strength and toughness, or I'm rolling or whatever, and there's a guy who might be super well intentioned but is trying to carry on a 20-minute conversation while we're just trying to play our game, and it makes it very distracting for both players and can be very difficult to kind of get through the game when that's going on. So just be mindful, you know, if the people at the table are returning the conversation and it seems like, you know, they're all kind of into it or whatever, that's fine. Use your social awareness, you know, to gauge the situation. But I do recommend that you just be careful that you don't end up becoming kind of a nuisance to the game, even if you're super well-intentioned and just want to talk hobby. There's lots of nights at different game shops and stuff like that where they generally will have like a hobby night or something like that. There might be people who are waiting for a game that you can chat with, but usually if they're in the middle of a game, kind of offer a couple of comments and then let them get on with it. Look, the last thing should be pretty self-explanatory, but I'm just going to say it anyways. Don't cheat. Cheating is a hollow victory if you win anyways. And I've always felt like this for video games or anything else, whether it's trying to sneak a little bit extra movement because you just didn't get that charge there, or moving your models when your opponent turns around or whatever. I've seen all kinds of stuff. But the main thing is that there's just no feeling of accomplishment in a victory where you didn't win legitimately. And then you're going to earn yourself a bad reputation at the game store. People aren't going to want to play against you. And I really feel like this is a very small amount of people that I've run into, but I'd be remiss if I didn't at least mention it. And maybe if you have done it in the past and, you know, for whatever reason, you know, I'm not here to judge, but just don't cheat. It's easy. Anyways, guys, that's it for my tips for how to not be that guy at the game store. Again, I don't want anyone to take this as an attack on them or, you know, think I'm trying to be toxic or anything like that. This is all meant to be in good spirits, in good fun, you know, maybe be a little bit educational, but I think, you know, we all know the people I'm talking about. And the bottom line is this community that I have found has just been the most positive, welcoming hobby community that I've ever experienced. And so I just want to help in some small way contribute to that continuing to be a positive experience for everybody else. So with that, let me know in the comments if there's anything else that you think I missed. And of course, if you made it this far into the video, I'd love to see you subscribe because I've got lots more videos coming for you in the near future. You can follow me on Instagram at Crash Course Hobbies. But as always, support your local game stores, and I will see you in the next one.